Here's one that's going to come up in Big Ten Media Days, SEC Media Days, Big 12 Media, fill in the blank, NIL. It's three letters that college football fans have come to know and love here very recently. It's been the great topic of the offseason, including the proposed college football playoff at 12 teams. So I think everybody's trying to gauge. First and foremost, I think a lot of people have been surprised that July 1st hit and it wasn't this slow process of, okay, athletes would start to get out there and companies would start to contact them. No, these companies, these athletes, they were all set and ready to go. And boom, July 1st hit and we heard about deals all over the country. But I think every fan base is trying to determine whether their team, their program is going to be able to take advantage or has a unique position in all of this, depending on the conference, where they're located, the brand, the image, all those things in regards to that and their particular players. So where do you think the Michigan slice of this sits in regards to Michigan taking advantage of NIL?
Yeah, so it's crazy. Everyone's saying NIL. I've said NIL more than I ever thought I would say those three letters. I didn't really know exactly what they meant probably even a year ago. You'd always kind of heard, this could happen where, there's been people pushing for it. Then obviously it goes to the Supreme Court, and they basically said that this was, going to be ruled probably at some point illegal, that the NCAA could say some of these kids can't profit off of their own name, image, and likeness. Well, the universities and the NCAA is taking home, millions and billions respectively. So a good move, in my opinion. Obviously, the NCAA didn't go about it probably the right way. They seemed forced into this and reluctantly made this legal. But that's on one side of things. From the Michigan standpoint of things, I think Michigan's positioned really well. They have the largest living alumni base in the country. Obviously a huge brand. They're one of the college football blue bloods. They got to get back to playing on the field like that, but at the same time, they recruit well. They're in on a lot of kids that, they can now continue to pitch that your brand can grow here. Your, image will be bolstered at a place like Michigan because there's a lot of eyeballs on Michigan football. People care about what these kids are doing. People care about the coaching staff. They care about the players. They care about the program overall. So that's one aspect of it is the branding, the fact that you're on a, pretty big platform at Michigan, as opposed to maybe, an Indiana or a Purdue or something like that. Or, not necessarily that you're, competing with a ton of recruits with those guys. But then you look at what Michigan is going to do in terms of how they're going to approach this. You've already seen several schools partner with consultation firms that are going to help out their players. So they're going to kind of bring in some outside help. They're also hiring, their own kind of inside help. They can't make the deals for these kids within the rules, but they can tell a kid, hey, don't rush into this deal. Or a kid can come to them and ask, hey, what do you think about this? Am I signing away too much here? Is this, worth the squeeze on this one? So you can do all of that. And I think Michigan has done a good job. They, before this happened, before July 1, a few months ago, they hired Sydney Sims, who is now the director of branding. So they were kind of already getting prepared for this. They hired her from Notre Dame, who was in a similar role there. Notre Dame's done a good job with branding as well. So now the next step is, you can kind of help these kids. You can mentor them. You can't find the deals for them. And I think that's probably going to go on at some schools around the country. But now it's kind of on the alums and the fans to kind of band together. And hey, if you're Stephen Ross, who's the owner of the Miami Dolphins, and obviously a huge Michigan booster and graduate, are you going to sign a player to a 6-figure deal to, rep this brand that he owns or that brand? And same with a ton of, more prominent alums around the country and really around the world. If Michigan, and, there's already rumblings about Dax Hill possibly signing a 6-figure deal, the sophomore safety, who's a 5-star and, seems to be like he's going to break out even more this year. If stuff like that happens, Michigan can absolutely sell that on the recruiting trail. They're don't necessarily play by the same rules as some of the SEC powers, but if you can kind of even that playing field, I think even a little bit, it's going to pay off for some of these kids that are considering Michigan, but at the end of the day, decide to stay in the South or decide to go somewhere else. So any little bit helps. I think Michigan is, they didn't announce anything right away with one of these firms or anything or a marketing agency, but they can catch up really quick here. And I wouldn't even necessarily say catch up, but they can make their plans clear pretty quickly. I think everyone's trying to figure this thing out, and we'll see what happens. It's going to be crazy. It already has been, as you mentioned. As soon as you woke up on July 1st, these kids were signing deals.
And you bring up a good point with the consultation, because I'm sure at the stage of life that we're talking about, 17, 18 to 22 years old, that it's reasonable to expect that any money that flows their way, they got to think, hey, that's great. What's the downside? Every deal is going to be great.
Right.
That there's a lot of pitfalls potentially attaching yourself to a certain brand, a certain company, and a lot of legal ramifications that they're not considering. They think that every dollar coming their way is a positive, but that's not necessarily the case.
I wouldn't know what to do either, to be honest.
Exactly.
I mean,
Absolutely.
I would take it probably. I would take the quick cash grab.
Yeah, sure. Oh, send me $100. I can do a social media post in 30 seconds. Everything's good.